while you all are suffering through it, of a chocolate overload. Chris said no, it must not be something he thinks is possible. Chris said no, I said it must be something he doesn't think is possible, of a chocolate overload. Let me see here. Just
Who got the first base?
there you are. Okay. Let's give Ginger. Ginger, I'm giving you Proverbs chapter 6, verse 16 to 19. Chapter 6, verse 16 to 19. And let's give Brandon James chapter 1, verse 2. And we'll give Jimmy Titus 1, verse 2. Titus 1, verse 2. And we're going to give Robert Acts chapter 5.
The whole chapter?
Verse 7 through 10. He wants me to give you the whole chapter. You hear that? Acts chapter 5, verse 7 to 10. We're giving Roger Gibbons.
Oh, me?
I'll get you in a minute.
Okay, what?
Acts chapter 4, verse 36
Just one verse?
through chapter 5, verse 6. It's 8 verses. Acts chapter 4, we're going to do the last 2 verses and then the first 6 verses of chapter 5. And then we're gonna do, let's see who we got here. We're gonna have Roger Cook read Ephesians 4, 22 through 25.
22 to 25.
Yeah, we're gonna give Jennifer Romans 5 and 12. We're going to give Christopher John 14, 16.
John 14, 16.
Yeah, and we're going to give Tim Leviticus 5 and 1.
5:1.
Yeah, Leviticus 5, verse 1. And then we'll give Sharon.
Hang on,
I'll tell you, you can help Ma out over for a minute, and we'll get back to it. I'll turn the church on just a minute. James 5 and 12. James 5 and 12.
James 5 and 12.
Yeah. Yeah. And then let's see what I've got left. Rick. We're going to do Deuteronomy 17. Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 6 and 7. All right, now. So, what was last week's event that we covered?
Do not steal.
Do not steal. We're still in Exodus chapter 20. So let's roll to Exodus chapter 20. We're going to look at our next commandment tonight moving forward, which is very clearly stated that thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. And I'll show you some interesting numbers in just a second to see some things that we go through and see. But it's interesting some of the numbers we see of what we learn about problems with people and how they interact and what they do. So here's one of the interesting things about some stats. At the age of 4, 90% of the kids already understand what lying is at the age of 4. And according to research, 60% of people 18 and older are incapable of having a conversation without lying once every 10 minutes. On average, 3 lies are told by adults every 10 minutes. Well, you've already told 2 or 6 already. Parents are the primary victims of lying, with 86% of lies being told to them. Second to parents are friends of individuals who are lied to 75% of the time. Siblings are the third most, accounting for 73% of victims. And the fourth most lied to are spouses, 69% of the time. Online, lies are most often seen on dating sites where 90% of participants engage in untruthfulness. 40% are seen on resumes. On a daily occurrence, there's 12% of people 18 and older lie sometimes or quite often. 80% of women on occasion tell half-truths. On resumes, 31% of the people lie on them.
What does the CV stand for?
That's the same thing, curriculum vitae, your education for a job, how much qualifications you got. 21% of people lie to avoid being around other people.
Yeah. Yes.
20% of people lie to be humorous, such as when telling a joke or making a prank. Self-protection is the reason for 14% of people who lie. 13% of the liars do so to make a good impression on other people or to appear more favorable to them. 11% of liars do it to protect someone else. Personal gain, benefits are the reason 9% of the people tell a lie. 2% do it with the sole intent to hurt somebody else, and 5% of liars are unspecified, doing it for absolutely no apparent reason. That's really interesting. 76% of people 76% of people believe that lying is acceptable in some cases. 24.1% of men have lied on their Facebook profile versus 16% of women. 21% of men have lied on a resume versus 16% of women. But 51% of women have lied about their weight versus the 28% of men. 3% of 1,254 Americans polled said they lie often. 66% said they're seldom or never dishonest. Females are more likely to lie to their parents, and males are more likely to lie to their friends. Now, if we start off, now remember, no falsehoods at all about bearing false witness to thy neighbor. Now, you think about this for just a moment. If we come up to the supreme level of lying, the first thing that comes to mind would be this.
Politicians.
No.
The politicians. You think about, and I just want you to think of that. You think about all the politicians you've seen on TV, on the news, and that you know. Think about all of them that you know. If you ask them if they lie, how many would tell you that they do?
Probably all of them.
Maybe rare. They may be rarely admitting the truth that they lie. Or they may tell you that yes, they do. It wouldn't be good for their campaign measure to say that they do, but that's it. Winston Churchill said a very good statement about politics and about the whole measure of being truthful. And I'm going to give you this word. You can use it Sunday to confuse people if you want to. But now Winston Churchill said this very thing. He called it terminological inexactitude.
Oh, I have to write that down. Don't change it.
Terminological inexactitude.
Change it to quick on me.
Now, that was the politician's way of telling something you don't know if it's truth or a lie. It sounds good, but you don't really know what it is. But it's terminological inexactitude. Sharon's gonna start using that at work all week. She's gonna start using that across the board all week. She's writing this word down right quick. I'm letting her write it down. But he said this once in a very famous part of politicians' meetings, whatever they had in the Congress and something else. But this is what words he used, is that it's a terminological inexactitude. Now, let's flip. What was you gonna say, Jimmy? Yeah, that's enough right there. Just those. That's enough right there. Now, here's the real question. Now, this is the real test right here. Is the next question I've got.
Do you lie?
Do you lie?
You gotta be honest, don't you?
I teach kids every day.
So,
See, you
I
lie.
cannot tell a lie.
huh?
I cannot tell a lie.
You can-
I have.
Every day.
Yeah, you cannot tell a lie. So,
Why can't I help them back?
let's do a mental lie detector for just a moment,
Uh-oh.
and let's just place it here. So you are in a very expensive antique shop. When you accidentally turn around and all the clutter and bump a very expensive vase with flowers and knock it over and it breaks.
Well, I'm gonna hope I can turn into Barry Allen.
Do you attempt to put it together? Do you attempt to sweep it under, put it over under the case so nobody sees it? Or do you go to the owner and tell him that it fell over and broke?
One of the above.
Huh?
One of the above.
One of the above.
I don't have to worry about that.
Huh?
I'm afraid that I'm Barry Allen.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about that. Ira would never let me in that store.
Oh, that's it. That
He says
stopped
I
it.
knock more things off shelves than anybody.
That
in
right
the
there stopped it. You just think about it. This is the mental lie detector. What would you do in this case? What would you do? Now, then, here's the next one. What if you agree, would you agree to answer any questions asked to you by a significant other while hooked to the polygraph?
No.
You can have one lie.
They,
Take my job.
they will hold in court.
That's not what he asked you.
Medically, they have measures of ways of telling some of your responses to whether you're telling or not the truth. We're gonna get more into that in just a minute. But the question is, would you agree? Would you agree to answer any questions that your significant other asked you while you were hooked to the machine?
Nope.
Now, here's a good one. I like this one. Do you often say things you don't mean for the sake of politeness? You ever know when someone says something, say, bless it.
Yeah.
Lord bless it. God bless their hearts. Ever done that before? Okay. All right, let's see on this one. Have you ever lied about your age, your education, or your income? Would you tell a close friend if they had bad breath?
Yep.
Okay. Did you lie anywhere on this test?
Nope.
Because if you did, on any of these questions, if you've lied to yourself or us on any of these questions so far, then you have broken the 9th commandment. Now, let's split this up. We're talking about lying to begin with, but let's just split this up a little bit into two areas. We've got an unknown falsehood, and then we've got a known falsehood. So, an unknown falsehood would be what? Give me an example.
Don't know what you're talking about.
Huh?
Don't know what you're talking about.
That's probably good, yeah. An easy one is when people are on Facebook and they see some wild news article and they start sharing it to everybody, and the whole time it was fake.
Yep.
That is an unknown falsehood to share that. Or if Jimmy's at England's and someone tells him that the store out here got robbed, and so he starts telling other people, hey, I heard just a minute ago that such and such store got robbed, and the whole time it was completely false. He don't know it. Out of innocence, he don't know it. But that is considered an unknown falsehood. Versus, here we go, the known falsehood being liars that on other hand know exactly what they're doing by they are contradicting the truth that they actually already know. So we look at there's motives for lying. Have you ever thought about that? That if you tell a lie or you do anything to lie, that there is a motive behind it. You just don't do it for no reason. If you lie for any reason, there is a motive. Now, I've just pulled the most top 5 just to give you some examples. But anything that is motive of a lie is something behind what the lie is about. It can be anything to fabricate something. It can be the fake news, the untruths, the half-truths, spreading information. All of these, no matter the motive, is an intent to deceive somebody. That's the whole point in the lie. We know this, that the whole intent is to deceive somebody. There's a story of a woman and her child that gets on a train. And the rules on the train were that everybody under 6 years of age could go on the train for free. So the mother tells the child, when we get up there, you tell the conductor that you're 5. Just like that. And so that she wouldn't have to buy a ticket. So they get up there to the conductor, and the conductor asks her, said, "Little miss, how old are you?" And she says, "I'm 5. Just like that, and they go on. A little while later, the conductor comes back while the train is moving and sits down beside the little girl and asks her, says, "So you're 5 years old?" And she said, yeah, just like that. And he says, "Well, tell me, when will you be turning 6? And she says, "About the time that I get off this train." So, some ways we can deceive some things, but all lies has an intent, and there is a motive behind what actually happens. So, always think about what goes on. Now, have you ever remember the David Letterman show? He always gave the top 10. I remember that on TV. He always had to give the top 10. Well, we're going to back up and do the top 7. So the first thing we have is Ginger's reading in Proverbs chapter 6, which is where we're going to start for just a moment, about some top 7 things here dealing with our commandment tonight.
He winketh with his eyes.
Nope. Proverbs 6, 16 to 19.
6. Oh, so
You're all right. You'll get there.
I think she lied.
I was gonna read all of it.
Was you lying?
She was on the road.
Yeah, these 6 things doth the Lord hate, yea, 7 are an abomination unto him: a proud look, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked imaginations, feet that be swift in running to mischief, a false witness that speaketh lies, and he that soweth discord among brethren.
If you look at these verses and these top 7 that's an abomination, what is an abomination, first of all? Tell me what that means.
I always thought it was homosexuality.
Can be. There's various parts in abominations, but what is an abomination?
God despises. I
Okay?
understand.
We're going to use the word hate. These are the things that's hated by the Lord. Now, 2 specific ones he mentions out of the top 7 in here. If you look, the 2 top mentions in here that's even mentioned twice is the lying tongue and the false witness that speaketh lies. Now, I want you to just think about that for just a moment, because we're gonna look at some things in a very common story. I pulled a very common Bible story so that we could look at some things. So we're going to have Roger read Acts chapter 4 and go all the way through chapter 5, verse 6.
Yes, Robert.
Yes.
All right. And Joseph, who by the apostle was surnamed Barabbas, which had been interpreted the son of consolation, he a Levite, and of the country of Cyprus, having land, sold it, and brought the money and laid it at the apostles' feet. But a certain man named Ananias, with Sapphira his wife, sold a possession and kept back part of the price, his wife also being privy to it, and brought a certain part and laid it at the apostles' feet. But Peter said, Ananias, why has Satan filled thy heart to lie to the Holy Ghost and to keep back part of the price of the land? While it remained, was it not thine own? And after it was sold, was it not in thine own power? Why hast thou conceived this thing in thine heart? Thou hast not lied unto men, but unto God. And Ananias, hearing these things, fell down and gave up the ghost. And great fear came of all them that heard these things. And the young men arose, wound him up, and carried him out, and buried him.
Just a good demonstration of how much God hates the spreading of lies, falsehoods as we call them. We need to look at this event that happened in the first church at Jerusalem. Now, at this time, it was very common for people to pool their resources. And even here stated about them selling their land and giving the proceeds to the church. And we find that even in particular, they even used that money to make sure that the members of Jerusalem, of the first church at Jerusalem, were being provided for. So we know Joseph, he owned some real estate, and he sold it, and he brought the proceeds to the church to be distributed to people that had need. And here we've got Ananias and Sapphira that does not want to be outdone. So they own the property also. So they sell theirs, and they give the proceeds to the church. Instead of donating 100% of the money they got, they only gave a portion. Now, keeping some of the money was not the problem. That was not an issue. God never told them to give it all to the church in this part. So people choosing to sell their land and give everything to the church was fine. If they gave part of it, that was fine. That wasn't the problem. The problem was when they lied about the gift that they're giving in this part of the Bible. They told that their donation given was the total amount that they got from selling their land, when in fact that wasn't the truth. And Peter calls them, and we see that in verses even mentioned, that Peter tells them and calls them that they are lying to who?
To God.
To God. Not just them, the church, but lying to God. And what did the Lord do to him for lying?
Killed him.
Struck him dead. Not knowing what happened, we know Sapphira stopped by the church later that day, and she ran into Peter. And then we find what was said in the rest of this story. I think Robert's got 7 through 10.
And it was about the space of 3 hours after, when his wife, not knowing what was done, came in. And Peter answered unto her, Tell me whether you sold the land for so much. And she said, Yea, for so much. And then Peter said unto her, How is it that ye have agreed together to tempt the Spirit of the Lord? Behold, the feet of them which have buried thy husband are at the door, and shall carry thee out. Then fell she down straightway at his feet, and gathered up the ghost. And the young men came in and found her dead, and carrying her forth, buried her by her husband.
So he asked her about the same thing about the money. Did you really give us 100% of what you got for the selling of the land? And she lied. And she died. The interesting thing about this, one thing I'll say in verse 11, nobody's read it, but I will say in verse 11 it says that there was a great fear came upon all the church and upon as many as heard these things. When people learned that people who gave to the church and lied about how much they gave were dying, there was a mass chaotic fear amongst all the church. I've heard it said many ways, but one of the comical ones I've heard preachers say is that Peter missed a golden opportunity, because if he would have took up an offering right then, he would have made the biggest offering in history. The biggest offering in history would have been made right there if he could just took one up. But fear ran rampant through the church, learning that lying would get you killed. Well, how similar is that to 2025? If you lie to the wrong people, what happens?
You messed up.
You go to jail? Okay, I'll give you a good example. We had this in the last 48 hours right here local. Person walks out on their porch and gets shot in the head. Right here. And he's still alive right now. He's able to talk to the ambulance crew when they got to him. No problem. He does not know who shot him, and he doesn't know exactly where they were at. He didn't see them. But this was in the night hours, and he went out on his porch, and he heard something, just a little peck, and he said he felt something warm coming down his face. And it was where that he was shot in the head. And it is believed that that was because of some things he had not been telling truthful, was what the story law enforcement had gave, from my understanding. But either way, at this point, people realize, hey, if we lie about what we give to the church and we lie about how we're dealing with the church, the Lord is the one striking you dead. It's not the church members, it's the Lord. He is the one going to strike you dead. Now, we know a couple things. We know that the very definition or essence of full, total, absolute truth is God. We know that all truth is in Him completely. Anything outside of that result does not match the very definition of what we know. In James, who had James 1:17? I gave it to somebody. Anybody get James 1:17?
I got James 5.
No, not you. I gave you the one. All right, we'll read it. James 1, huh?
I said, I got John 14:16.
No. James 1:17. Every good gift and perfect gift is from above, and cometh down from the Father of lights, with whom is no variableness, neither shadow of turning. If there's any other way to put it, the absolute truth, God is the very definition of that, and the essence of all truth. Now, we know also in John 8:44, did I give anybody that one? John 8:44 is the verse that tells you about Satan, and it calls him a liar, but it says he is not only a liar, he's the what? Father of all lies, in John 8:44. And then we go on to prove even more about God being the truth bearer, because in Titus 1 and 2, who had that one? What was it?
In hope of eternal life with God, that not lie promised before the world began.
Provingly written in Titus 1 and 2 that God Himself cannot lie. All truth. Let every man be a what?
Liar.
If God's going to be true, let every man be a liar. Now, as it is written. If you look at some things, and I just want you to think about this. This is the turning point tonight about commandment of not to bear any false witness and about lying. This one thing right here.
All right.
If Christians, now this is where we're going. If Christians tell a lie, they're acting more like children of Satan than like children of God. Lying is contrary to who you are. If you are brothers and sisters of who?
Christ.
If we're transformed into the image of Him,
Yep.
all things are gone away, and behold, all things
Something new.
become new. You are a new
Creature.
creature. You have been transformed into the likeness of His image. All of this tells me that if Christians are the ones telling the lies or acting involved in the lies, then they're more of an accessory for Satan. They are acting more like the children of Satan than they are the children of the Lord. Now, when we look at lying, and we've been talking about how that an abomination is labeled, let me tie one more set of verses into this abomination we're talking about as we study. Ephesians 4, I think Roger has this one, 22 to 25.
That you put off concerning the former conversation, the old man which is corrupt, according to deceitful lust, and be renewed in the spirit of your mind. And that you put on the new man, which after God is created in righteousness and true holiness. Wherefore, put away lying, speak every man the truth with his neighbor, for we are members one of another.
Can you tell me one of the reasons God hates lying? Why does He hate it? What do you think your answer would be? Why does God hate lying?
Because it comes from Satan.
Okay? Did He create it? That's the question. Did God create lying?
No.
It did not originate with Him. The second reason that we could easily say why God hates lying is because of the outcome. Because we know that all things through Him does what? They may new, but I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. And then all things work together for the good. See, all these things God created, the outcome is good. Now, anybody have Proverbs 6:19? Okay, what's it? You ain't got Proverbs 6:19. I didn't think I gave this one out. Proverbs 6:19 I read the other day says about sowing discord in the family of God. Those who cause what we'll call causing trouble or division in the church or their family or among friends, the primary vehicle that is doing every bit of that is lying. Causing discord and division is always led to the root. The vehicle that got that moving was lying. And you think about how much a lie runs in all directions and how much it takes. And you think about how many ways can you lie? How many ways is there just to tell a big lie? Anybody got any examples? Tell me your tactics. How many ways are there to tell a lie?
Many.
Many? Got a good example?
Yeah, I really am on my way.
Yes.
I'm in the car.
Yes. Okay. We're starting right there. The very breeding ground of the first originating problem of lying with Satan came in a very special place in the beginning of time. Where that the devil, now let's just look at this. He says, back up. God says, you shall not eat of the tree of good and evil, or you will what? Surely die. Satan comes in contradicting the truth and says, you surely will not die. But God said you will. We live with the outcome of that lie. Now think about this. The lie that Satan told, we are living with the outcome of that today. From the beginning of time, we are living in the outcome of that lie today. Who had Romans 5:12? They give Romans 5:12 to anybody? We'll let Christy look that one up while we're going. Think about.
No, I got Romans 5.
Okay, never mind. Jennifer's got it. Sorry.
Wherefore, as by one man's sin entered into the world, and death by sin, and so death passed upon all men, for that all have sinned.
There we go. The outcome of that lie is still going today. Various reasons for why we engage in it. We said earlier about the statistics saying about the desire to impress someone. You know, that's one of the big ones I love is when they get into pretending to be someone they're not. Circumstances are different than they actually are. Hoping that people will like us more. Seeking revenge. There's a lot of ways, of various reasons why people engage in lying. I used to love it when new people would come to work and would orientate with us. Because normally I'll get one every so often that's already done everything. They're brand new on their first day on the job, but they've already done it all. They're all right there. They have done it all. And so what I do with them is I flip the roles and say, show me. Since you've done this, just show me you can so I can sign the paperwork and we can get you to work. So then you'll go in a room, patient's room, whatever, you know, or on a call, and then you'll be sitting there and they're sitting there lost in weeds. I mean, completely lost in weeds. No clue what's going on. And the whole time they wanted to give us a good appearance to make us think that they were good at doing this job or they knew all about how to do the job. But in essence, for them to give off the impression in words to say that, oh yeah, I've done that. Oh yeah, I've done. COVID was really bad because during COVID, a lot of the healthcare people didn't have to do any clinicals. So they never touched anybody all through school. They just graduated. So I had all these people coming out that's never stuck anybody with a needle. And you can just imagine what that's like when they come into your room and they've never used a needle before because they weren't in school to do it on mannequins before they come. So now you're the first mannequin they're going to touch with that needle. So I had plenty of them say, oh yeah, I've done this. And I thought in my mind, yeah, you've watched this on YouTube, is what you've done. I can done tell how this is going to go. Well, in a few minutes, when the color left their face, because the needle's in their hand, they got the arm under this one, and they've got to stick them. And they realize, let me tell you how I know this. When I was in school, we stuck each other in class. So whatever you done to the person you sticking, got to do it back. So you got real good, real quick at how to start an IV, give a shot, whatever. Because we did everything to each other first before we was allowed to go out and do it. A lot of people during COVID didn't do that. So they come in robust, flying with their cape, their crown on, walking in the room. And here they are ready to fly away, and then the next thing I see is that sweat breaking out and the color leaving their face, and I'm just sitting there waiting on them because they're in orientation, and they're supposed to be able to do this. They've assured me at 7 a.m. when they got here that, oh yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. There is a reason why that people engage in those lies. There was a preacher once that said something about he preached online, and he had an 8-year-old child. And on the way home, he was trying to instill in the child how important it was to take strong efforts to do what he said when he preached about not lying. And the child says to its dad, which is the pastor of the church, on their way home, is that like when someone calls and mom answers the phone and you tell her to say that you're not here? So, you see where I'm saying? There's various reasons people engage in a lie. And there's motives behind every one of those, no matter what it is. But, you know, when your child tells the pastor, well, Dad, is that just like when someone calls and you tell Mom to tell them you're not here? That implies the same problem we have today. Then we got another problem. Now, here's another one that goes. All right? A pastor said once, I remember this one. A pastor said one time that he was working while in college full time. And he was a college professor is what he went to school for, and then he became a college professor. But while in school, he worked in a factory. And so he had kind of procrastinated and got behind and hadn't studied for the final that was going to be the next day. So he decided he had to call in, or he had to come up with a way to call in and tell his boss that he was sick, and so that way he could stay home and study. But he was not, whatever he did, he was not going to lie. So, what he does is he says, he asked his wife, he said, what are we having for supper tonight? And she said, I'm going to fix some fish. And he said, okay. He said, what kind of fish? She said, it's them frozen fillets we bought at the grocery store. And he said, okay. He said, well, I'm going to go in here and lay down. In a few minutes, you bring me one of those bags. So he goes and gets in the bed. And a few minutes later, the wife comes into the bedroom and hands him a frozen bag of fish. And he throws it in the air. And she looks at it. And then he looks at his wife and he says, I want you to call my boss and I want you to say that I'm in here flat on my back and I just threw up my dinner. That's what he said. He said, so my wife picks the phone up and she calls and she tells the boss that her husband said to tell him that he is in the bedroom laying flat on his back and he just threw up his dinner. And he said, well, tell him to not come in. It might be a virus, and we don't need to spread it through the factory. Tell him to stay home. So he got to stay home the whole night and study for his final. But, see, there's a motive, and there is a reason to engage in this act of what we call a lie. Whether you can even lie to yourself. I love it when people lie to themselves and say, well, I'm okay. I'm fine. Oh, I can do it. Ain't no problem. You're lying to yourself then. That's how well deceived we've got, is when we think we can even lie to ourselves, knowing better or not that we can. One thing about it, who wrote Ephesians? Who wrote Ephesians? Paul. Now, I want you to notice one thing here for a second. We should never be silent when we know that the truth is being contradicted or twisted. One of the things important about this in Ephesians 4:25 that Roger read is that we are to put away the lying. We are to put away and speak every man truth with his neighbor. So, what are we supposed to do if in company of people we hear a lie being told about our neighbor? What are we supposed to do?
Speak up.
We're supposed to say something. We should never be silent when we know, key word there is we know, the truth is being contradicted or twisted.
Was it lying if it's jokingly said? I'm gonna give you an example.
Okay, go ahead.
I started an IV on a patient,
Mhm.
a little bit nervous. He asked me had I ever done that before, and I said, well, no, actually, you're my first.
Yeah.
And after I started, I said, no. I said, honey, you're about the 100th.
Yeah.
Is that lying?
Well, it is.
That's joking.
You're joking, but it's a lie. They usually will say, when I stick people, some of them that don't like being stuck, they'll say, please don't miss. And I'll say, honey, I've not missed one yet, all day. And she'll say, how many of you stuck today? You're the first. So, But in efforts of our lying is the motive of it is to engage for falsehood, twisting, contradicting what the truth is. Moses told the Israelites the same thing in court of law. Now, I think Rick had, who had Leviticus 5:5? That's Tim's. Tim's Leviticus 5:5. Tell us what that said.
And if a soul sin and hear the voice of swearing, and is a witness whether he hath seen or known of it, if he do not utter it, then he shall bear his iniquity.
Okay. If you know somebody is being slandered and you remain silent, then you are the complicit in the slander. You are now in the participation of the slander. If you stand there and let someone lie about your neighbor, knowing that it is a very vivid false accusation, slander, whatever it is, and you don't say anything, you're now accomplice to this slander because you were present. Peter did this. Peter did this when them people said, hey, you're one of them that was with him. You know all about this. You was up there and you was with him. What's he say? I don't know that man. I don't know who you're talking about. I do not know him. And what happened after he done it 3 times? The rooster. Yeah. So think about something just for a moment. Staying silent when lies are being told is to be the same as being guilty of spreading it. If you're silent to something being told that is not the truth, and you know that for a fact, then you are just as guilty for the spreading of it because you were present. You were able to rebuttal the truth. Many times we have this same place, and whoever's telling the lie or whatever they're doing, their motive and reasons, no matter what, if we know in fact that that is not true, then it's easily confrontable. Here's something else to think about other ways we lie, is inflating the truth. Inflating the truth. People do this on resumes, their relationships. A couple, man and wife, gets in an argument, and the first thing that they'll say is, you always do that. You always do that. Implying something that they're inflating that the person don't necessarily always do every single time. And if we engage in any form of deception that hurts our credibility, think about this, as truth tellers, to engage in any form of deception that hurts our credibility is the same as truth tellers. It also hurts our credibility as followers of the truth if we're not holding to the truth. Who had John 14:16?
And I will pray the Father, and he shall give you another Comforter, that he may live with you forever.
Okay. Our credibility as a follower of the truth. What happens if we're the ones lying? Does that damage our credibility or even dependability of being a witness for the Lord?
Yep.
Are we not the witnesses? Are we not the ones telling the truth? We're supposed to be telling of the truth, which is the good news. And how much is damaging our dependability on being a witness for the Lord when the issue is that we don't keep up our credibility in what we're doing? All right, who had James 5:12?
Me.
That was Sharon. What does that say?
Just a second.
That ain't what it says. You lied.
Okay, right there. Let, yeah. But above all things, my brethren, swear not, neither by heaven, neither by the earth, neither by any other oath, but let your yea be yea and your nay nay, lest ye fall into condemnation.
We ought to be people of such integrity that the old-fashioned notion of our word being our bond is absolutely true. How many people can you really take their word for it? 2025. How many people can you really take their word for it?
I don't know, I don't.
Huh?
Very few.
Very few. Very few. If Roger don't know them, then he ain't taking no credibility of that. He ain't taking their word for it. In this part, James even says to let your yea be yea and your nay be nay. Here's where we get into the line. Now, I like this setup. even though it's Old Testament and biblical ways. Rick's going to read us these two verses in Deuteronomy 17, 6 and 7.
At the mouth of 2 witnesses or 3 witnesses shall he that is worthy of death be put to death. But at the mouth of 1 witness he shall not be put to death. The hands of the witness shall be first upon him to put him to death, and afterwards the hands of all the people, so thou shalt put the evil away from among you.
Think about the fact of how this legal system went. When you came up to accuse someone of doing something, in the Old Testament days, for there to be any actionable cause or any action taken on what you're accused of, there could not be only 1 witness, because it would be very easy for someone to tell a lie on you. They could come up and say, well, Sharon ain't cleaning them bathrooms over there. She's just walking in and out of them. She ain't doing nothing. And someone could easily say that on one accord. So first thing we got was we required to have more than 1 witnesses. But even that, let's go a little further. Here's what's even better. In case 2 or 3 over there at work conjured up to get Sharon in trouble, and all 2 or 3 witnesses went and told the lie, they also not only had to be the accusers, they had to do the execution. So therefore, if they lied, they was going to be an accomplice to murder. And if they did kill the person as the executioners, guess what happened to them?
Put to death.
They were executed. That's a pretty good setup. I like that. So if you lied, 2 or 3 ganged up on you and lied, and went on through and actually did it and stoned you and you put you to death, and you ended up it was a lie, and they found out about it, then you were getting it next. They would execute you for lying and killing someone because you were accomplice to murder. I told you. Well, let's go back to biblical standards. We'll be all right. But think about that way in protection of even this moral code's conduct set up in the Old Testament and Moses' law days, in Deuteronomy through time, that the way they handled dealing with people was not that you could come in on your own. There had to be multiple witnesses to this charge before we were going to take action. And then to make sure you're telling the truth, you're going to throw the rocks first. You're going to pick them rocks up and start throwing them and hitting them to kill them. We're going to kill them, stone them to death outside the city walls. But before we all jump in and do it, you're going to prove that you're not lying. You're going to really say it was real and they did it. You're going to be the ones to start throwing stones. What did he say to them with the woman? They took her out.
And him that is without sin
Cast the first stone. Because one of you all that knows so much about this tale of all this blaspheming and stuff you think they've done, Stephen's another one. Since you all know so much and this is so much of the truth, pick the rock up and throw it. Whichever of you don't have the same problems and the sins alike, pick it up and start throwing. And I told you a couple of weeks ago, my mind always runs back to he knelt down and started writing in the ground. And I always have in my mind the thought of what if he was writing their names and their sin out from it. And he started seeing him write their name. Everybody standing there got their name wrote in the sand and what sin they had committed. And him telling them, whoever's without sin, go ahead and throw that stone. Go ahead. Because what happens when they lie and they throw it? They're next. That was the law. That was what would happen. They would have been put to death next. So when we look at no false witness for whatever motive and whatever reason, and we look to our actions, God hates this, one, because he never created and originated it, one being. Second being is the outcome that comes behind the lie. How many people you know that lie, that it always has, history has a way of repeating itself. They tell a lie and it always comes back around to them. And people find out later that they told something that wasn't true. Y'all remember the funny Sunday school game people would play when they would tell one on this room, tell somebody on this side, Roger, we'd tell him a little story, and he'd tell it to Robert, and by the time it got all the way to Christy, it was absolutely nothing like what it originally started out with. It changed so much just in this one room across 12, 13 people, it magically just went to pits. But that is how easy our minds are deceived, is because the devil did it day one, right in the garden, from the beginning of time. And that has now stuck throughout all of human race. So lying being something God hates so much more, tell me any benefit or good that comes from lying.
Not hurting hurting somebody's feelings,
Huh?
not hurting somebody's feelings.
But are you telling them the truth?
Don't mean you have to, don't mean you have to hurt their feelings. Give you an example.
Okay, go ahead.
Pastor in Michigan was invited to dinner, him and his wife, and he was sitting there, and he got some grits. Oh, they were the worst tasting grits he ever had in his life. So his wife started to eat them up, said, boy, ain't this the best grits you ever tasted? And about that time, she put another big spoonful right in his plate. He said, thank the Lord for good cooks.
Yes.
He didn't lie about it. He didn't say them the worst grits in the world. But it didn't hurt that person's feelings.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, sometimes.
Did he lie?
Did he lie?
Did he lie?
Well,
I don't think he
He
lied.
didn't
But
specify anything.
he didn't say any direct specifics. He was driving way around the mark to where he needed to be.
And another one is, on the phone, and you're out there in the middle of Middlesboro, and you don't want to talk to somebody. Well, I'm gonna hang up. I'm fixing to go in a tunnel. A tunnel's 3 miles away.
But you're going to go through it sometime.
That's a lie, though.
Yeah. But that's how easy deception goes, that people twist and turn. I used to have people that
Don't even
had,
answer the phone. What's wrong with y'all? Don't
I used to have people that had what we called the magical 7-hour illness, because out of their whole shift, there would be a 7-hour window they were deathly sick, and then about 8 hours later, we'd get a call and say they're seen out in town in the store just fine, or something else going on, but they'd call us and tell us they're sick. And so that's what they would tell them, is that, these magical 7-hour illnesses, they just got cured somehow, just right in the middle of the day. They was able to get out and go and do whatever they wanted to do. Huh? Yeah. But in a lot of essence and ways, the outcome of that they think is good for them, but the outcome of it may have put a hardship on somebody having to stay and cover, that really put a hard bind on them to not be able to leave. There's a lot of outcomes from what they've done to benefit themselves that has now caused further damage, further problems, further issues. So when you see these things, and that's one of the things we look at, that's one of the reasons God, as an abomination, lists it as one of the top 7s, is because this is one of them things that you plant as a tiny mustard seed, and it grows into an enormous product of deception. Because how easy is it if a 4-year-old, 90% of people children of the age of 4 have already mastered it. Now you think about that. If they've already mastered lying by the age of 4, then how powerful is it going to be when they're 25, 35, 45? Huh?
They're good at it.
Absolutely, they're good at it. And who's teaching them this? Everything around them. All the people around them. That's how they learn to be able to deceive more and more is the world around them. And that's how powerful that the deception is in the world we live in. There's that person, I don't remember his name, but the boy that killed himself, committed suicide because he was talking to the AI app. Y'all remember that recently, the boy on the news? Mm-hmm. He committed suicide because he asked a question to the intelligence. I don't know what he asked, but he did ask something to it, and it told him an answer, and he believed it and killed himself. Asked his artificial intelligence on the phone or whatever he's on a question, and it gave him an answer like it knew him, and gave him an answer, and he believed it and killed himself, committed suicide. That's how easily deception is. Today, I had an employee today come back and ask me what I thought. China has got a way, and they utilize this for I don't know what for. China has a way now on all the phones, watches, devices that they can see you. They know where you're at, they know what you're doing, they know everything you're doing on your phone, and they're even taking pictures of you when you're looking at the phone screen through your camera, because they can control it that well. And China has got ways of tracking various people. They know what they look at on their phones, what they study, everything, and then they know what they look like. They've got so many angles of them, they could identify them. They can identify you by your forehead. Now that's how advanced this has got. They can get into that phone and take pictures of you while you're on it so good that they can identify you by the markings of your forehead. And this is all in use of some things with artificial intelligence. Now, how much are we going to be deceived by something that man made? That's the thing you got to remember is God didn't invent this. Man made something that is being used for wide craziness purposes. And how much are we going to let it deceive us further into believing that it's telling us the truth? Well, that's a computer. It can't make up a lie. That's a computer. It can't tell us wrong. If you Google your symptoms, you'll be dead by Monday. Is that not real? If you look up any of your symptoms by Monday, you're going to be dead. That's what people do. Huh?
That's what the doctors do. You go to the doctor, you look up your symptoms.
That's right.
You write the prescription for it.
Yeah. That's it. How much deception do we have by the tools and things that we have in our hands or access to, and it all rooted from the devil just taking the truth and just twisting it just a little bit and saying, if you eat that tree, you're just going to know it all. Your eyes are going to be opened. You're just going to be able to see things you never saw before. You're going to know things you never knew before. Ain't that that's almost sounding like artificial intelligence. Ask it anything. It can tell you. You'll know all things. Not that there's anything wrong with using tools to learn. I'm just saying that's a very similar example of what happened in the garden in the beginning of time that is now followed and continues to follow all through time of the human race. Anybody else got anything tonight?
Veterinarian would be the best doctor to go to.
Yeah, because you don't have to talk to him.
He talk back to you.
His patients don't talk to him, so you don't have to talk. Yeah. Any others tonight?
Have you, there's another one that I see happening a lot, preachers. And that is embellishment.
Oh, yeah.
Embellishment.
Yeah.
Making up a story to go along with what they're preaching about. Make it sound more interesting. And they don't know.
Nobody knows the drill or not?
And they'll tell people, I'm gonna tell you something you ain't never heard.
Yeah.
You ain't never thought about it.
Yeah.
And it's just embellishing the word of God. The gospel don't need no embellishment, but I'm seeing it a lot.
Oh, yeah.
People make up a story.
Yeah.
And when you say, boy, and a lot of people come away saying, boy, I never thought of that. And it's not in the Bible. It don't need to be added to. But
No.
people are really liking to embellish, giving somebody something that they ain't never heard of.
Oh, yeah.
It's just embellishing, it's just making up a story to go along. And in other cases, it's fine, like I read my definition of embellishing, because I read it in the Bible, it says, to make something more attractive by adding decorative details, or to make a story more interesting by adding fictional or exaggerated details. This can be a positive action, like decorating a cake with frosting, or a deceptive one, like adding untrue details to a story to make it sound more exciting.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of that in the world. Preachers making up TikToks.
Lifelike experiences. That's one of the things they're putting them to do.
A story in the Bible,
Yeah.
and they add to it, like, you know, it don't really need to be added to the story.
Right.
I mean, what's written in the Bible is plain, clear, and true enough. But they say, well, now this is what really happened.
Yeah.
You know, and they don't know.
Right. Right.
Say, Bible silent.
Right.
Question, Josh.
Yes.
If somebody called me on the phone and asked me if Christy was with me, and she's like, no, don't tell them I'm here. And I close my eyes and I say, I don't see her, who's lying?
Well, you don't see her. You didn't
Don't
say.
get driving.
What?
Hope you're not driving when you do that.
Hey, I've been driving blind all day.
Anybody else got anything?